It doesn't sound all that English. I'm going to start with this. How many of you know who Naval is? Okay. And how many of you have seen this tweet from about 2 years ago? Okay. So when this tweet went out, a lot of people were like, what? What are you talking about? And I think what's actually really interesting is that right now, what we're seeing with ClawCon is exactly, I think, what he meant. The number one answer that comes up right now on X is this, that agents are the ultimate interface over UI. And my interpretation of what Naval said is that a good set of AI prompts and systems replace UI. You don't need a UI. So that's the backdrop. It's a little philosophical, but what have I been doing? So this is a typical personal finance app. You know, you've seen a zillion. We don't even use it probably. Most of us are doing if we do any bookkeeping at home, we do it in an Excel spreadsheet, right? This happens to be an open source repo from the ex-founder at Barometrics, who spent about $1 million building this. $1 million of money like someone else, right? And then he stopped and he said, I'm never gonna make this work. It's a B2C product, the numbers don't work. One thing that made me fall in love with this, and I'll get to it more, is this. He added, this is one of the first SaaS tools I saw that was quote unquote AI native. Like he had the concept that what was interesting, it was not this. It was not the numbers. This is like the table stakes. What was interesting to him was this. What if I asked, this is the demo site, you can use it, is what I can do if I have access to that data. And for that, I don't need UI. Because if I need to use this stuff, so what did I do? I forked this last summer because I was using it for something else, because he was dropping it, and now it's a pretty, we're not, we don't have the number of stars, OpenCall has. We have 7,000 stars, which is pretty good. So what we, try to do here is make the assistant be, an agentic assistant. So instead of what I was showing you before, was your typical, what everybody would downgrade to just a GPT wrapper. See, we haven't spent the last 15 years writing database wrappers, because it's all crud. We're all doing, layers on top of a database. So what is possible here, though, now is super interesting, and this is where kind of the ClawCon thing starts. I can show you, by the way, this is a repo. If you want to use it, every time I go show it to people, I end up having a couple of computers. So ClawCon, which is what's sitting behind that sidebar now, you can optionally say, hey, I want to talk to you, ClawCon, and maybe not even through your interface. I can do it through WhatsApp, I can do it through whatever, is this sort of interaction. So I'll show you an interaction that's real, and then I'll show you how much money it actually costs to do it. I'm sure you've all spent way too much money playing with this shit. So I think I asked him for the demo, hey, Bookie, I call mine Bookie, how much was the last product? And you can see here, now it goes and has a lot of fun. Oh yeah, let me do a memory search. I see an OpenAI key. Maybe you have, a vector store. Now, there's nothing in the vector store. So yeah, it calls, the embedding model, doesn't find anything. And then it says, well, let me see if there's anything in the logs, right? Nah, it doesn't find anything in the logs, nothing that it can do. And then it says, okay, well, let me look at this memory that I made. And yesterday, I did ask it to close the books for me. Literally, because the prompt was, please close the February books for the family. And it had generated this. This is ClawCon's version of my monthly books. This is the new UI. It's not my fancy, graphics charts, what I sometimes call chart porn. All those pretty charts you never look at. Look at them once, or your boss looks at them once. This is how, by the way, I have not written an e-file. I don't know if this is a real, the numbers line up with the numbers that my software does. The good thing is that the software hopefully will be the system of records. Because I can tell you later if you want afterwards how there's tool calling, there's an MCP. If ClawCon does the job right, if you set the skills right, it's not going to make it up like it does here. Because you'll see what he does. I'll show you. At some point he gives up. He doesn't find that you're going to throw that bill in there. Because I don't have anything recorded, so let me just browse the web. You told me, and I'll show you the skill. I say, you're my family's accountant. By the way, I didn't even write the MD files. And for those of you that have already set this up, it's all about putting MD files that get added to the context. I told ClawCon itself what it had to be, and it did the job. It auto-updated its own empty files, because that was, for me, part of the concept I wanted to test. So he said, I'm going to be your accountant, and sure, since I told it that my accounting happens in the Sure app, it has the URL. It has a command line interface that you could use, which it tries to use, and then it realizes, this happens right before here, I think I went over this, I don't see the command line interface installed. So it gives up. It worked yesterday, actually. Yesterday, he was able to install the command line interface. So he just starts crawling the web. And by the way, it just gets it wrong. It starts crawling the web in the demo site. It doesn't log in with my credentials. I have given it in the skills my API key in the hopes that it would use the command line interface. And what is with LLMs? Please, please, please use the command line interface. Yeah, whatever, dude, I couldn't do it, so I'm just going to do something else. So this is why all these systems are, non-deterministic and really hard to work with. So, anyways, I could keep showing this. I actually enjoy looking at this stuff. I don't know if you guys do. I don't know if you only stay on the other side of what actually comes in. It's super interesting to see. If only we could see the reasoning tokens that the labs are not showing us, we would learn a lot about how these systems work. And I guess just to close this part of it, I can show you at the very end, and you've all heard about the heartbeat. Here it is telling me, hey, by the way, we still have a thorough thing to look at, because I never found your number. So to me, all this shit is mind-boggling, because to actually see a non-deterministic system actually try to do the job that I've told it to do, and to actually remember all this is, pretty cool. So anyways, that's the use case that I thought would be really nice to share, is how an app, a SaaS app, an app that supposedly, SaaS is no longer, is it viable? Can you invest in SaaS and they let you? Yeah, you're giving me a shrug. So VCs don't seem to like SaaS right now because it's not clear what the business model is, right? Are we all going to have our own version of the code? Are we going to do it like the Collison said, fresh pizza off the oven? I don't quite believe that. I think that's a lot of over-exaggeration, because you still need the system of record to have the numbers right. I don't think we're going to spend, this is how much the demo was like. So the demo to set up, because I didn't actually, I'll show you this in a minute. So yesterday, just to do the little bit of the setup, because I did it on a brand new, was $7, $8, to tell it to self-configure itself. And the number of tokens is like 300,000 tokens, because it's been crawling the web. And I didn't do what you all should do, is just change the default model, right? For the heartbeat on, Opus 4.5, right? Do it on a cheap model. So this gets really expensive really quick, the way it's, right now being deployed. Now, I'm sure really soon, OpenAI will say, oh, we're the good guys. You can use the auth key, unlike the Anthropic key, so use ours. It's probably going to change. But building a system, it's a lot more just than on the spot doing the job in a rush, right? So I do think we're still going to have a lot of software that we're not going to write. And that's kind of the second part of, I don't know if I have enough time, but so this is the other thing that's happening that's mind-boggling. I think someone of you invested in David Gil, he's a contributor in the repo. So David one day hooks up his multi to my repo because he's using this. And this happened 2 days ago. I wake up to a pull request from his multi that's done a penetration test of the repo, and it's given me 26 vulnerabilities fixed. And like I did 3 weeks ago when this happened for the first time, because we have a command interface that we didn't write. David didn't write it, I didn't write it. The multi, as we called them back then, wrote it. I had to call him, say, David, is it you again? Or is it the multi? Oh yeah, sorry, it's the multi. I turned it on again. So this shit's real. I mean, you're going into software, it's the next layer of abstraction, right? I don't see myself or anybody that I work with actually, doing the, first time I think the Spanish word, the orfebrería, doing the fine work on the code. Even the pull requests are being reviewed by the AI now. And it's, crazy to consider, this is the command line interface. This started one night at midnight, and the bot just got stuck. And at some point, I can even show you, I asked him if he would let me, his multi called Wolf. This is the actual exchange between him and the multi that's working on my repo. And he's, very techy. If you're not in software, it's not going to make much sense. Hey, what are you using? Yeah, the merge is this. No, yeah, make sure you change. This other conversation might be a little bit. Yeah, I threw the pen test. The penetration test is there. But it wasn't working, so I relaunched it. So now I've completed it, and I've got 16 fixes. And yeah, and 12 of them are real. And And then he has to tell them, yeah, where did you do it? Which branch? Oh yeah, well, don't do it on main. Make sure you send a pull request. I don't know how much money he spent on this. I'm sure he's still using auth key. But software has changed. We're not going to be writing software. I have another Sentry, if you are in software, is sending me pull requests from looking at the logs. So that demo site, if there's a problem that Sentry thinks it can fix, I wake up to a pull request telling me, hey, here's a fix for that thing that I see in the logs. So all this idea of self-healing systems that you hear is going to happen, is happening. Anyways, again, it's pretty techie stuff. You're curious about this, or you're curious about what I think could happen here. I think the value of the community, I think the value of people that care about doing their finances, I think the value of people that care about their finances staying private. A lot of people are running this on local models, on Quen 3, in their local machine at home, because they don't want their financial data to go to OpenAI. So yeah, there's definitely something happening here where a lot more of us are going to write software because it's a lot easier to write software. Thanks. Thank you.